Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session on Python programming. Good evening, Chini ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have given you the rights so that we can start.
Okay, sure. Yes, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
And I'm properly audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Okay. So if you have any doubt in between, you can ask. And today we are going to discuss the pandas library. Last time we did the NumPy library, that was the most used one numerical library that was used for the manipulations of the arrays, right? Now moving on, we have the pandas library. So pandas library is basically used for manipulations in the data frame or the series. That is when you want to manipulate the data. So in that case, we use the pandas library. So first of all is installing of the library. So like we did in the NumPy, if the NumPy is already available with you, then you can just import the library, right? And if suppose it is not available and you are getting an error that you don't have a package with you, in that case you have to install the library, right? So for that you have to use if you are using the Anaconda software, so you can use the pip install command. So from there you write pip install and the name of the library you want to install. So in our case it is pandas library, right? So if while importing the pandas library, you are getting an error that your required package is not available, in that case, you first need to install the library. So it is pip install pandas, right? So this is the command that you can use to install the library. Next is after you are done with your installation, so you have to import it. So you have to import the library. So with the pandas library, we sometimes also require the NumPy library to use some of the functionality of the NumPy library that is needed in the pandas library also. So I am importing both the libraries. The first one is the import NumPy as NP. The last time I told you that the as NP is the aliasing. You can give any name to the library so that you don't have to give the full name every time you call any functionality, any function or any class of the library. In the similar manner, we are also importing the pandas library, and for that we are using import pandas as PD. So instead of PD, you can write any name that you want to call every time, right? So I am importing these two libraries. So you can see that the library is imported. If suppose you are not having the environment of the pandas or the NumPy library, then it will show you an error here that the package is not available that you are trying to find. So in that case, first install the library, right? Now, next is the first important thing in the pandas is the series, right? Series is like a 1D array, but a array that is labeled. That is, you can call using the indexing names that we provide to it, right? And it can hold any type of data, like for example, integer, floating point, string, objects also. So it can show type of the data. So it is like a 1D labeled structure, right? So series is a like for example, if you have your Excel sheet, there is one column there. So that one column is like a series, right? So for that, if we want to uh, create a series, so for that we have a functionality series with S is capitalized here. So it is a function that is present in the pandas library. So if we want to use the functionality of the pandas, we have to write it as pd dot series, right? And inside it we have to define the elements we want in our one dimensional array. Consider it as a one-dimensional array, but with indexing present in it. So if suppose I want 5 elements in the one-dimensional array, so for series, we have to write it in the circular braces, and inside of that, we'll provide that these are the elements we want to provide in our series. So if I run this, it is run. So you can see that it is all the values are generated here. So what is the difference between this and a 1D array that we did last time using NumPy library? The difference is this. You can see that we have index present here. So it means that if I want to access this value, so we have special index here that we can directly use. So if I call this index, we will have this value. So you can consider it as, suppose these are the keys that are linked to certain values, right? So if I suppose want the value 6, I'll call the key 3, and you can name these keys as you want it to be, right? These are not anything standard. You can give any name to or any name or any functionality to it, right? Now let's suppose I want this series, but I want to change this indexing to the indexing that I can easily remember, right? You can name it anything. So let's suppose this S1 series is a pandas pd.series. Inside that, first square brackets will give us the elements that we want to add in the series, comma, next is the index. What type of index we want to give it. So the number of values that are present in the first should be equal to the number of indexes that are present in the second, right? So you can give the indexing like this, manual indexing. So if I run this, so you can see that the A index has been given a value 0. Similarly, B index has been given a value 2, right? So this is how a series is different from a 1D array, right? So you can give any indexing name to it and you can define a series. So it is very easy to call. So just like I told you that consider it as the keys and values, right? The index is like keys and these values are like the values that are defined for each key. So based on same thing, series have an inbuilt functionality, you can say, that values that directly give us the values, right? So if I want to get the values out of a series, what I will do is I will give the name of the series dot values, right? So if I run this, so you can see that we have got an array here, right? So why we have got an array? Because our series consists of array of the values, right? This was the index, these were the just array values, right? So that is why when we call the values from this series, we get an array, right? With each element of the array is related to some index, right? So this is the series, simple. That is how you can add the values to it, and then how we can define the naming to it, that is the key values to it, and then how we can call the values out of it. In the similar manner, we can also iterate or traverse through the series like we did in the NumPy also. So for that, we will use simple for loop. So inside the for loop, let's say we want to iterate through every value and we are giving it a name v. So for v in, where we want to iterate the values, right? So we want to, for v in, where we want to iterate in the values. So how we can get the values out of a series? Using series dot values function, right? So I am calling s1 dot values. So inside it, for every v that is iterating through the series, we are going to print that, right? So if I run this, so you can see that it has been iterating to every value that is present inside the series, right? So this is how you can traverse your series. So this was a simple series, that how we can create it, how we can traverse it. Next is, suppose I don't want to traverse the whole series. I want some particular value out of it. right? So here also indexing starts from 0. Suppose I want the third value out of it. So it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 6, right? So you can call it using S1, that is the name of the series, and inside that you can use the square brackets, right? And inside that you can give the index that for which you want your value to be, right? So in general we want the third index value, so it is 6, right? And similar to this, we don't have to define the manual indexing. We can just use the index that we had provided and we can directly call from that. For that, we are going to use the lock function, LOC. LOC means location. So S1 dot, in that I want location, which location D, that is which element, yeah, which value is present at a location D. For that we can also, it means we can also access the value using the manually defined indexes that we have defined already, right? So using the lock function, LOC. So LOC stands for location here. So you can see that initially, so you can see here, yes, here. So you can see that D is related with the value 6. So if I am giving the location D here, so it is giving me a value of 6. Similarly, we can use another function, that is ilock function. So ilock here means I want the location but based on a index. So I stand for index and LOC stand for location. It means you want a value based on the location, but the location you are providing is the index based, not the actual name base, right? So for that you have to use the ilock function, and inside this you can give your index, right? So if I run this, you can see that I have got a value 6 here, right? So what did this mean? This means that I can also call a value in the series using the actual indexing name that we have provided or the index number that is already present at the backend, right? So if we want to define it using the user provided name, then we have to use the LOC function, lock function. And if we want to give the index, then we have to use the ilock function, right? So next is the slicing inside of a series. Suppose now we know that how we can traverse through the whole series. We also know how we can get a single value out of a series. Now suppose we want the multiple values out of the series depending upon the range we are providing, right? So for that, what you have to do is you have to first of all use the square brackets. Inside that, so you have to define the starting range and the ending range. Suppose I want the value starting from the starting, that is 0 index, up till second index, where the second index is not included. So the upper value here is not included. So if I am writing it as 0 colon 2, it means that it will give us a value at 0 index and a value at 1 index, right? But not at second index. So if I run this, so you can see that we have got the values at 0 and 1, but not at 2. So in this way, we can slice any range that we want. So instead of 0, 2, you can give 1, 2, 1, 3, 1 colon 3, 1 colon 4, any range of values that you want to extract out of it, you can use the colon, right? And the starting range and the ending range. In the similar fashion, suppose I want my values to start from the second index and go till uh, end of the series, right? So for that, we don't have to provide the end index, that is where the series is ending. It will know it by default. We just have to provide the starting index, right? So if I am starting from 2 colon and I'm setting it as empty, so it means I want my values to start from the second index and go till the end of the series. So if I run this, so you can see that This was our original series. So you can see 0, 1, 2. So it means it has started from the second index and has gone up till the end of the series, right? So this is how you can use the starting index and not want the ending index. And similar fashion, you can also, if I want to start from the starting, but go till certain point. So in that case, you can keep the starting range as empty. So if you are keeping the starting range as empty, it automatically or by default means that you are starting from the starting of the series, right? So this is how you can uh, get the slice out of it, right? Now, suppose I want some manual indexing. I don't want to provide the range. I just want some indexes. Like I want the first index, I want the third index, and I want the fifth index. So in that case, you have to first of all first define the outer uh, square brackets that are used to give the what indexing we want. But inside that, I want to provide the list of indexes, right? Instead of providing a single index, I want to provide the list of indexes. So we know that while defining the list, we have to give the square brackets. So that is why another square brackets are here, which gives us the list of the indexes whose values we want. So that is why we get the values related to the first index, third index, and fifth index. Similarly, you can get any value out of the series, right? So these are the basic manipulations of the series. That is how you can define a series, how can you define an index, how can you iterate through a series, how can you slice some values based on the index or based on the names that you have provided, right? Any doubts still here? Yes, anyone, any doubt? Okay, so if you are not having any doubt, let's continue further. Let's print this series first so you can see. So this was our original series. We can perform some we can perform some arithmetic calculations on it. We can perform some logical operations on it as well on the series, like we have done on the arrays also. So for that, let's suppose I want to check which of the elements are greater than 0. So this is a type of a logical operator, right? So you can directly use a logical operator also. So if I run this, so you can see the first value was 0. So it means it was not greater than 0. So it has given us a value false, and rest all the values were greater than 0. So it has given us a value true. So you can also apply some logical operations on it to check whether uh, your defined condition has met or not, right? So in this way, you can apply some logical operators. Now I can also apply this another condition. What is does it? We are getting what we have written initially. We have written S1 here. S1, and inside that we have provided the square bracket. It means that I want some values out of the series, right? If we are providing the square brackets in front of the series name, so it means I want something out of the series. But what I want out of the series, in that case, instead of providing a manual index, I am providing a condition here. That is, S1 should be greater than 0. It means that it will only return those values where this condition will meet, right? So if I run this, so you can see that the first has been left out and everything else has been printed. So it means that instead of giving manual indexes, we can also provide the conditions inside of the series instead of directly providing the indexes, right? So it will automatically get the indexes based on whatever conditions that you have provided, right? So I can also give here that f is s1 equal to 0. So in that case, what it will doing is it will give us a values inside the series where the value would be 0, right? So in this way, instead of the providing manual indexing, you can also provide some conditions in it. Next is we can add two series also. So if I run, let me show you the S1 originally what S1 was. So this was our original S1. Let's suppose we add S1 twice, right? That is S1 plus S1. And let's see what the output is. So if we are adding these two series, right? Yes, is my voice not audible properly? Hello? Yes. Can you tell me if there is a difference now? Okay, let me try again. If you are still getting the problem, just let me know, right? So I was talking about that what will happen if I add the series, right? So I am doing here S1 plus S1. So what it will do is it will add the values index wise, right? So for example, now we have added the two series. It means that it is adding this series two times. That is 2 plus 2, 4 here, 4 plus 4, 8 here, like 6 plus 6, 12 here. So you can do any operations on the series also. So you can add it, you can multiply it, you can divide it, right? So you can do any operations that you want to do in the series, right? So let's try to multiply also. So I am multiplying the series, the actual series by 4. So if I run this, so you can see that initially it was 2. So 2 multiplied by 4, 8. Then here it was, I think, 4. So 4 multiplied by 4, 16. So you can see that we can perform any arithmetic operation on the series also, as well as we can perform any logical operations also, right? So this is the arithmetic and the logical operations that we can apply to series. Now is my voice any better? Okay. Okay, that's good. So we can continue next. So we have provided the logical operations as well as the arithmetical operations. Now we can also have some statistical operations on it as well as. So like we did in the like we did in the NumPy library also, we calculated the mean, median, mode, like all these things, right? So we can calculate the mean here also of the complete series. So how we can calculate the mean here? So now mean is a functionality of the NumPy library, right? Not a pandas library. That is why we are calling it using NP and not PD, right? So NP dot mean, inside it we are providing the series for which we want the mean to be. So you know, after you calculate the mean, you will get the value 6 here, right? So that is why I added the NumPy library also in the starting. Why? Because sometimes we need to provide some of the functionality on the series or on the data frame also, that is of the NumPy functionality, right? So this is how you can calculate the mean of any series, right? Now, I can also add the values in the series, right? I have done the manipulations on it. I have multiplied it. I have added the numbers. Now I want to add another number inside of the series. So for that, what we are going to do is we are providing the series inside the square bracket. What we always provide, we provide the index there, right? So we will provide here the new index for which we want our value to be, and we'll give the value to it, right? So it means that I am creating a new index h whose value is 60. So if I run this and run the series again, so you can see that the new value has been added toward the original series, right? So in this way, you can add n number of values to it, right? And you just have to provide the new index for which you want to add your value to, right? So similar to the addition, we can also addition of the values, we can also drop the values, right? So for that, let's suppose we are creating a new series here, S4, and the S4 series will consist of S1, but dropping the index A, right? So if I run this and run the S4 again, so you can see now that it consists of values from index B to H, but not A, right? Why not A? Because we have dropped the value. So we can delete the value, we can add the value. So we can do any functionality to the series that we do to the arrays, and even in a better way, right? That is why series are used. So you can also, if you try to link it to the dictionary, in the dictionaries also we have the keys as well as the values related to each key. In series also we are having the keys, but here keys are known as the indexes and we have the value associated with each index. So we can also create the series with the help of a dictionary, right? So for that, I am creating a dictionary. How we can create a dictionary? First of all, we are creating an empty dictionary here. So empty dictionary is, created with the help of parenthesis, empty parenthesis here. So inside that dictionary, I am creating an index A whose value I am giving it as 10. I am creating a key B. So let's call it a key, right? Because in dictionary, it is called a key, but in series, it is called an index, right? So I am creating another key B whose value I'm giving as 20, and similar to C and D whose value I'm giving as 30 and 40. So let's create this dictionary and run this. So you can see that we have a value here, key here A whose value is 10. Similar to this, we have a key B whose value is 20 and so on, right? So we can directly now convert this dictionary into a series. Why? Because we require the two values only. The one is index and one is value. So it is already having those form. So we can directly, give this as a series. So for that, I am creating, suppose, a new series S5. So it will be PD dot series. Inside this, we can directly provide the dictionary to it, and it will be converted into the series. So if I run this, so you can see that we have a series that consists of 4 indexes A, B, C, D and 4 values 10, 20, 30, 40 associated with each index, right? So these were just short of the series that is mostly used in the pandas data frame. So any doubt in the series? Okay, so if we are not having any doubts in the series, we are going towards the data frame, right? The second most used thing in the pandas is the data frame, right? So data frame can be considered, you can consider data frame as the collection of, uh, it is like a collection of series, right? A multiple series combined together forms a data frame. Now we know that that one column of Excel sheet represents series, right? But in the actual, when we have lots of data, we have multiple columns there, right? So we cannot create so many series for each of the manipulation. We want to have all those in a single place. So for that, we use a data frame. So you can consider data frame as a multiple columns in the Excel sheet, right? So data frame is a collection of series. It means one column of the data frame is a series, second column of the data frame is also series, but if we combine these two series, we get a data frame. So you can see that data frame is a two-dimensional labeled structure. So why it is a two-dimensional? Or you can say it like a n-dimensional, right? So let's try to create a data frame. So we have to add some columns to it and some rows to it, right? So instead of manually defining some rows and some columns, let us define it randomly, right? So in the NumPy library, we defined using random function, right? So how we can define using random function? For that, we were using the random class inside of the NumPy, right? We did last time using R, right? We alias it to R. So you can either alias it to R or you can directly use it. So if I want to directly use it, how will I do that? I will call first of all the NumPy library np. Then inside np, I will call the class that is random. So np dot random. So inside that class, I want to use the function randint, randint, right? So what it does it will randomly generate some integers for us. So if I want to generate some integers, I have to provide like the range of the integers, right? So I am providing here the range 0, 10. It means that there will be values starting from 0 till 9. 10 is not included, right? In Python, mostly the upper bound is not included. Then we have to provide the shape to it. That is what type of shape I want it to be. Now we know that it is a two-dimensional. Data frame is two-dimensional, right? Why two-dimensional? Because we have rows and we have columns. So one-dimensional is the rows, that is vertically we have, the horizontal rows we have, and the vertical columns we have. That is why it is a two-dimensional data structure, right? Not n dimensional, it is a two dimensional that consists of n dimensions. So n dimensions could be the n columns, right? So otherwise it is a two dimensional structure. So I'm providing here the shape 4 comma 5. So what 4 comma 5 means is that I want 4 rows and 5 columns, right? So if I run this, now you can see that we have got the random values starting from 0 till 9, but not including 10. And we have 4 rows with us. Here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 columns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So in this way, we can have 4 columns and 5 rows. We have created it. Now, what it's missing is, so if you consider it with consider it comparing with the series, so what do you think is missing here? Can anybody tell me? If we want to compare this data frame with respect to series, so what do you think is missing here? Yes, we have the indexing missing here. So we have to add the index to it to be converting it into a data frame, right? So that is why we are using the functionality data frame here. So pd dot data frame, where d and f are capital, right? Inside it, we will give our array, that is a two-dimensional array, and it will convert for us into a data frame. So what difference would it have? It will have the indexes present that are not present in an array. So if I run this, now you can see that I have the indexes present on the row side also and on the column side also, right? So these are known as the indexes and these are known as the columns. So we have indexing naming from 0, 1, 2, 3, and we have the columns naming from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So this is a difference between a data frame and a two-dimensional array, right? So if I call the index out of it, so df.index using the function, so it will tell us that we have a range of index starting from 0, okay? Sorry, starting from 0, stopping till 4, and we have a step size of 1. Similarly, where 4 is not included, right? And similarly, we can have df dot columns also. So columns are starting at start of 0 and stopping at 5, where 5 is not included, and we have a step size of 1. So it means step size of 1 means that it is in the continuous way, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. No difference in that. So it means a data frame consists of indexes and columns. So we can call the indexes and we can call the columns also. So this was a general idea of how to create a data frame. Now let's do some other form of manipulations to it. Like in the series, we added the indexes manually, right? We can give any name to the indexing, as I told you. So in the similar fashion, we can give any name to the columns also, as well as to the indexes also. So suppose I want to give the name to the indexes, how I am going to give that? So I'm giving the name of the data frame df dot and then give the index. That means it will give us me the indexes, and for that I am going to provide the values to it. Like for example, r1, r2, r3 and r4, you can give any value to it, right? So let me show you the data frame now, that how it looks like. So if I run this, so you can see that the indexes values has changed and the columns values are still the same. Similar fashion, we can also change the values of the columns also. Let's say we call our column as column 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So like the way we give it to the index, we can give to the columns also. So df dot columns, and inside this we can give the values that the names that we want to give, right? So if I run this, so you can see that now we have indexes also that we have manually defined, and we have columns also that are manually defined, right? So this was how we want to generate a data frame. Any doubt in the data frame generation or why we do that? Okay, so moving on further, there is another functionality in the data frames, that is head. So sometimes our data is quite large, right? We have thousands of values and it is very difficult to see all of them. And if I want to see, suppose certain what type of columns are present there, I don't need every row, right? So I can have some of the rows to work with, right? So for that we have this head column. Inside it we have to provide how many rows you want to see, right? So if I write dot head 2, so it will give me top 2 rows, right? So you can see that we have got the top 2 rows, right? So this its effect will be more useful when we have large data set. Suppose we have hundreds of rows with us, right? In that case the head function is very useful, right? Next is now let's suppose create another data frame, right? So the initially what we did for creation of data frame, we took out the random array values, a 2D array, and then we converted an array into a data frame. So that was one way of creating a data frame. The other way of creating the data frame is you can directly define the values to it, right? So how we can do that? So for that, let's suppose df1 is the name we are giving to our data frame, is equal to pd dot data frame, right? And that inside it, so we have circular braces here that are starting from here and ending till here, right? So inside this, you know that what we want the values, right? We want the indexing and we want the columns. So first of all, define the column. Give the column name, that is M1, and inside this give the values that you want inside that column. Similarly, another column values. Now you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 values inside each column. It means that we want 7 indexes. So you can provide comma, index is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can give any name to it, right? I'm giving just 7 numbers. You can give anything you want. So if I run this and run this, so you can see that I have got 7 rows and 4 columns, M1, M2, M3, and M4, right? So you can see that suppose there were 100 rows, it would not be feasible to see on this screen, right? So in that case, head would be beneficial. Okay. So you can see here also, I'm using head function here. So if I am not giving anything inside the braces, inside the head, it will use a by default values that I use. So by default value is 5, right? So it means that if I'm not providing anything inside the braces, it will give me top 5 rows, right? So if I run this, so you can see that instead of top 7, instead of all the 7, it has given me top 5 rows. So you can also get n number of rows out of it, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, right? So, and by default it is 5. So this is how you can get some values out of a data frame. And I have shown you the 2 ways how we can create a data frame. So first one was by first of all by creating an array the way you want it to be, and then converting an array into a data frame. Or you can directly define the data frame where you have to give 3 things: the column name, the column values, and the indexes, right? Okay. So we'll do some manipulations in the data frame also, like how we like in the series. First of all, we did the calling different values we want to call inside the data frame. So same thing can be applied to the data frames also. So if I suppose want the values inside the first column, so what I will do is I will give the square bracket first. That will give me the list of the columns that I want to provide. So I'm providing a single column here. So I'm calling it using the name M1, right? So if I run this, you can see that I have got this column and the index associated with these, right? Now I want the list of the columns. Instead of having a single column, I want to have 2 columns. So the same thing will be applied here. So the first square brackets will be for the indexing that we want to provide. Now I want to provide the list of columns inside it. So list is represented by another square brackets. So that is why we have another square bracket here. Inside that we give the 2 columns that we want to call. So here you can call 3 columns also, 4 columns also. If you have 10 columns, you can call n number of columns here, right? So if I run this, so you can see here that we have got the 2 columns. Let me show you one more thing here. Yes. So in the starting, I told you that a data frame consists of multiple series, right? A collection of series is known as a data frame. So if I have taken a one column out of it, it means that it is essentially a series, right? So to show you that, I have written the type. Type is an inbuilt function that we can use to see what is the type of this is. So I've given this inside it. So you can see that it is of the type series and not the data frame, right? So this verifies the fact that a data frame is a collection of series. So to make it more clear, let's see the type of this, right? So we'll insert a cell here and write this. And let's see the type of this when we have two columns, right? So if I run this, so now you can see that it is a data frame, right? So that is a difference between a data frame and a series. If there is more than one column, then series is converted into a data frame. So this can be easily seen from here, right? Right? So this is how you can check whether it is a series or a data frame. Next is we can also calculate the mean, just like we did in the series. We can also calculate the mean of the data frame also. So for that, we are calling out the functionality of the NumPy library. So np.mean. So inside this, we can give the name of the data frame. So if I run this, so now data frame consists of multiple columns. So it will calculate the mean column wise. So it will give me the mean of first column, mean of second column, third column, and so on, right? So this is how we can calculate the mean. Next thing is the indexing and slicing. Indexing is already done. We are left with slicing. So just like the way we did in the series, we can also have the slicing here in the data frame. So you can see here what it is doing is, if we are writing it here to column 4, so it means it is starting from index 2. So if it is starting from index 2, it means 0, 1, 2. That is the third row, and it is going till 4, right? 4 means fifth row, and fifth row is not included, right? So it will give me third row and fourth row, right? So in this way, we can get the rows out of it, right? I have told you how we can get the columns out of it. We have to provide the names. Now I want certain columns, but from certain columns, I don't want the complete column. I want the some values out of it, right? Suppose I want these values, only 4 values, right, out of this. So how we can do that? So now you can see that a data frame is a combination of like rows and columns, right? Indexes and columns. So indexes in column, first of all, separated by a comma here, right? So before comma it is indexing, and after comma it is columns. So in the indexes, I want from 0 till 2. It means 0th row and the first row, right? And 0th row and first row. And what columns I want? I want M1 and M2, right? So it should give me, these 4 values, right? Let's see. Right? So you can get any values out of it. So you have to provide the indexing, and then you have to provide the columns. So you are dividing it into the 2 dimensions and providing the range of both the one, right? So inside this, instead of giving 2, you can get multiple also, and you can also get a single one also, right? Is any doubt till here? Any doubt in the data frame manipulation? Okay. Uh, so next are the sorting of the values. We can also sort the values inside the data frame. So for that, let me show you the data frame first. So this is our original data frame. Suppose I want to sort this column, right? So you don't need to apply any loop here. You can directly use the functionality sort underscore values, right? So df1 name of the data frame dot sort underscore values. So you can see here that the values has been sorted out, and you can also see that corresponding values of the other are also shown, right? And the indexes has changed accordingly. So if 23 has changed from 6th position to 0, so corresponding all the values are changed because all the values may be interlinked to each other, right? So this is how you can sort the values, but other values will also change. You cannot sort, like we cannot change the indexing of the column. You can just sort out the values, right? And in the similar fashion, you can also find the minimum value inside a data frame, right? So it will give you the values column wise. So minimum value in each column, right? Let's suppose we have another data frame, and this is the data frame, right? So let me run this first. And let's see the df2. So you can see here that it consists of 4 columns and only 1 row, right? And now suppose we want to concatenate these two data frames, that we want to join these two data frames. So how we can do that? For that, we have a concat function here, pd.concat, right? So for the concat function, what we have to do, as it is a function, so we have to provide the round brackets here. So inside that, what we have to do is we have to provide the two data frames that we want to concatenate. So I am providing the first data frame and a second data frame, right? And you can concatenate these two. And if I run this, so you can see here that I have my data frame here and 1 row has been added at the end, right? So just give me 1 minute, just 1 minute, I'll continue. Yes, hello. Yes, sorry for the disturbance. Uh, is my voice audible? Okay, so we have concatenated, I have shown you how we can concatenate the two data frames. So I have created one data frame that consists of 4 columns, and we can add it to the first data frame. So it will be appended at the end of the data frame, right? Next is, let's suppose we want to do some other manipulation to it also. And let me add another random data. So same way, I'm adding 0 to 9 values, and it will be a 4 by 5, that is 4 rows and 5 columns. Let me run this, and you can see that I have 4 rows and 5 columns inside it. And yes, and let's suppose we have two data. Hello. Yes, I am audible. Okay, okay. So let's suppose I have two data frames, DF3 and DF4, right? In DF3, I have, let me run this. So you can see in DF3, I have 3 indexes A, B, and C, and 3 values associated with this 4, 5, and 6. And I'm providing the column name here. So initially you could see that the columns name were provided like here. Let me show you. Yes, the column name were provided here, right? So you can do this way, or you can also provide it like the indexing you provide. You can also provide the columns also, like I have done here. So comma columns is equal to this. So I have done in this way also. So you can see that what different types of methods are there to create a data frame, right? So now you can see that I have a DF3 data frame that consists of 3 rows and 1 column, and 1 column consists of 3 values. And in a similar fashion, let's suppose we have a data frame DF4 that consists of again 3 values, right? And we have 10, 20, and 33 values and 3 indexing into it. But now the indexing is different, right? It is A, B, but here it was C, and here it is D, right? Now there is another way of combining the data frame. One was just concatenating it. So concatenating, what was it doing? It was adding the row at the end, right? But instead of doing that, if I want to suppose I have another way of joining the data frame. I want to join it based on some condition or based on the column, right? Instead of adding just all the rows, I want to add, I want to merge them based on some condition and based on some columns. So for that, let me have a DF combined. Let me run this first to show you more clearly. Right? So we have another DF combine, and we want to merge the 2 columns based on the age column, right? So for that, we are using the functionality dot merge, and first I am giving the first data frame I want to merge. Second, I am giving the second data frame I want to merge, that is DF4. Here you can see on which column I want to merge. I want to merge on column age, right? And how I want to merge, this one is the important thing. How I want to merge, I want to merge using an outer join. So in SQL also, you know that there are inner join, outer join, left join, right join, right? In the similar manner, we have outer join here. So outer join, what is does it gives me the union of the two data set, right? So you have to provide what type of merging you want to do if you are merging on some column. Whether I want to have the union of all the values, I want to have common values out of it, or some other kind of merge, right? So you have to define how, that is how you want to merge. So outer merge means that I want to have union of all the values. Now you can see that initially DF3 values are there and DF4 values were there, and it has created a new index out of it, right? Because we wanted to concatenate all the values, right? So this was all about the series and the data frame, the two most used things in the pandas library. You can try out these 4 questions if you want, and if you have any doubts regarding today's lecture, you can ask, right? So what you can do is you can try creating a data frame that consists of 5 columns. Then you can try adding another column to the same data frame. Try to delete one column or delete one row. And the last one is merge the 2 data frames. Like I have taken the union of all the values, try to take the common values out of it, right? That is intersection of the values. So you can try these 4 questions if you want. Your concepts will be more clear. And meanwhile, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Yes, any doubt?
You all can unmute yourself if you have any doubt. Otherwise, we'll end the session over here. And I would like to make a small announcement over here because of the sessions that we missed during our lectures in between. We may extend our session by a day or two. I hope that will be comfortable with everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have any doubt in that, you can just tell me right now. If we extend our session by a day or two. What I'm saying is that we were supposed to end these lecture series by 25th of August. But because of the sessions we missed in between, we may extend our session by 1 day or 2 days. That is, you'll end the sessions on 26th or 27th of August. Will that be fine with everyone? Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'll send the link for that same when we are about to start with the session. Okay. So with that, I think we can end the session now.
Ma'am.
Yes, I hope today's session was clear. If you don't have any doubts, then we can end the session. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, ma'am. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll end over here. I don't think there are doubts, ma'am. So I think we can end over here.
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, everyone.